Hi, I'm David Brule. I am the chairman of the Conservation Commission in Erving and also a member of the Erving Historical Commission. In addition to that, I work with a Native American advocacy group based in Greenfield, Massachusetts, called the No Lumbika Project. Difficult to know where to start. The pipeline, as for everyone, I'm sure that you've talked to, the pipeline was quite a bombshell when we heard of the project, particularly when not much information came out. But when we did have a meeting at the Erving Select Board, it became apparent that the map that a number of people who were opposed to the pipeline, the map that they produced was going to create some problems for our interests, the interests that we are supposed to protect, including the wetlands and the cultural and historical resources in this town. A very specific example is the Fellows property, which we hold a conservation restriction and are required to do yearly reports on any changes to that land. And the map showed that this pipeline, proposed pipeline, was going to go right through the middle of this 130-acre forest legacy area, which we are supposed to protect on two levels. One, because it is a forest legacy project, and two, because we have wetlands issues and historical issues. So I'll let Sid talk a bit more about the details of what we have found and what we know exists there. But let's say that on this particular piece of property, which would be bisected by the proposed pipeline, there are several colonial and fairly post-colonial farmsteads there that are no longer, obviously they're in ruins, but very historic. It would be of historic interest and worthy of protection by the Massachusetts Historical Commission itself, in addition to Erving. In addition, there are a number of locations where there are ceremonial stones that we cannot disclose, but we know that Native American ceremonial landscapes exist in the same vicinity. And at the Erving information session, I raised those issues. So I felt that we needed to know very specifically what the plan was. I was given an answer by the Kinder Morgan representative saying, well, you are the type of person we want to talk to when it comes time. So that is my perspective from the Erving historical perspective and the Conservation Commission. The issue with the Native American group that I represent is that we work hand in glove with two federally recognized tribes from New England, the Narragansett Indian tribe from Rhode Island and the Wampanoag tribe of Gayhead-Aquina. And they obviously will have the clout and the contacts to help us protect some of the sites. However, I use the word protect because we need to present that aspect of it. We are presently protecting, researching cultural resources. So it is tricky for that particular group, as it is for the Erving Conservation Commission, since we will be the board that is receiving requests for permits. It's very difficult to us to say we're against the pipeline. But we have to be careful. What we are doing is informing ourselves and presenting the, let's say, the position that we have been elected or appointed, case being each board, to protect the resources that are going to be impacted by a potential pipeline. So that's our approach at this stage. Beyond that, I can say that the Conservation Commission has had no information from any of the representatives concerning the proposed pipeline. So at this stage, it's kind of cat and mouse, where it's difficult for us to say we're against the pipeline. It is easy and important for us to say we need to protect the interests outlined in the Wetlands Protection Act, in the charter and bylaws of the Historical Commission, and of course the Native American Advocacy Group working with the tribes is also taking the same approach. We need to protect the cultural and historic resources that could be impacted. So,
have you asked Kinder Morgan for more information?
We have not had any contact yet. I raised the issue at the meeting, and obviously in our position, at least in the Conservation Commission, in the Conservation Commission issue, we need to attend and wait for an application. When the application comes to us, a request for a determination of applicability, which is the first step in a long wetlands process, then we start questioning, and then we start challenging, and then we start obliging them to give us very specific information. But it's kind of hard for us to go out to them at this stage. That's not our job. They have to come to us.
You're aware that their timeline is that they're going to be contacting the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission this month, and it's already this month, it's the 7th of September now, to ask for permission in the public interest and the public good to run this pipeline through the state. But FERC doesn't have the information from you about why you would oppose it in these particular circumstances. So FERC doesn't have the information because
Erving's dropped the ball?
well, I don't know. Maybe
Well, it seems like a push. Now, let me just introduce myself. I'm Sid Scott. I'm the chair of the Historical Commission. I also sit with David on the board that would be receiving permits, which is the Conservation Commission. I sit on a number of other things, and I'm actually elected to an office here in Erving for, I hope, the good of all the citizens. What I like to think about is what I call the straight face test. What's fair, okay? Us seeking as a board, right? A Conservation Commission board, nowhere in our charter or bylaw have I ever read, we go out and ask you, applicant, hey, what are you doing? That's completely backwards. That would never happen. The fact that, whether this is true, I don't know, they could be going to a federal licensing commission, which by the way we are liaisons to and should be getting information from legally. I don't see how their decision would, maybe I can be told and corrected by an attorney, supersede all Wetlands Protection Act, supersede the regulatory body that oversees our conservation land. And you know what got me really just kind of riled up, and I wish you had been at the Erving meeting, I don't know if you were. Well, if you heard my question, I got Kinder Morgan to admit they pay for the pipeline themselves. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Nobody else wanted to follow up. Denise followed up, and they all got all tight-lipped. Because, you know, that's a whole nother issue. Ratepayer. It's a dirty word.
right.
Okay, now, if we're all ratepayers, then we're all the dirty word. And we're going to pay, you know, again, I could go off on that, just on its fairness. How an energy, an energy body that makes $1 bazillion gets tons of help. And the rest of us who are small business owners, not so much.
Right.
But back to the idea that they would, the FERC, or FERC hog or FERC?
FERC.
Right, would be expecting the small town of Erving to be explaining to them in advance, without informing us of this. We have gotten a letter, I got no letter as the chair of the Historical Commission, hey, what's historically, and when you draw a line on a map to make a pipeline, capitalistic society, okay, I have this argument, and I'd love to get it out there for anyone who's not like, understand. Now, if we pay for a pipeline that somebody else pumps gas through and makes profit, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's like interesting. And so that's when I asked them that at the meeting, hey, wouldn't you give me literature that says $881 billion in assets, right? Wow, right? Okay, great. Can't afford your own pipeline? You put it on me? In a capitalist society, if you want to buy the land next to me, which I would hate, but it's for sale, and draw a line on a map, I don't care if it zigzags through Idaho or whatever, and legally obtain that, I can hate it, I can protest it, I can jump up and down, but that's the way the capitalistic society works. If you draw a line on a map and it says state park, conservation land, private farmland, homeowner's home and driveway, how the hell does that pass the straight face test when you go to your boss and say, hey, check it out, we're just gonna go through here and here. Because it's really cheap to draw the straightest line. Well, and then let's get that's the funny part. Then how about the ratepayers can pay for it? Okay, fine. Pay for it yourself, make your money, and go the way you have to go. And anybody who runs a business, and I challenge Democrat, Republican, Independent, to say, hey, the government's gonna hook me up with all the stuff I need, all my equipment, pay for some of my employees' benefits, make sure they're covered if they get sick, and then I'll pump out all these cool products, and then don't sweat the profit, because I'll take care of that too. And you guys can just pay and keep paying and keep paying. What industry is that? One, right? So that's weird as a business guy perspective. And I'm not against somebody legally building a pipeline. Hey, everybody who's watching this is watching it on TV that's plugged into the wall. You're sucking juice from a nuke plant or oil burning or something, okay? Better you use less than we create more. Pretty simple equation.
Yeah.
But if you're making money off of selling more, and you can get it socialized, which is a wicked dirty word, except for when it's corporate socialization.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a problem. And once you dig a hole in the ground and drive a pipeline through that, that's kind of done. And again, go back to, I see conservation land on the map, but I don't care.
Yeah, right.
And that just blows my mind, that all the work we would do, all the work Mount Grace would do, taxpayer money we spent to secure that, all that goes out the window when a corporate entity with 881 billion, I keep going back to that number because it's staggering to me. I don't think we could pilot in Erving, right? They can't afford to build their own stuff. In the eye, even the corporate spokesperson can't go, why, of course, ratepayers should pay for it. It's like, yeah, it's laughable.
Yeah.
It's absolutely laughable. And of course, they don't want to talk about that after because you probably got yelled at by somebody. How dare you tell the truth? And I'll tell you, I told you this. I used the technique on him. He's going to know this now. And you should know this when you go to a meeting. If you can do your homework and know the answer to the question, okay? So you ask one question that you know the answer to. You listen to hopefully the truth come back at you and now you go down a different road. But if you start to get the double talk or the non-answer, follow it. Immediately interrupt and follow it with a second question you know the answer to. The liar's brain will not be able to lie to you twice at the same time. Then ask the question you really want the answer to. And I read that in one of my wife's cross-examination little snippets. And where I wish I had filmed it.
Great strategy.
I was like, good Lord, that worked so fast. That was not even possible. So whoever's watching this, use that strategy. Hopefully they won't figure out how to defend themselves against their own brain. But when you're paid to lie, you're still lying.
Yeah.
You still gotta think. If you're just gonna talk the truth, there's no problem. You could ask me questions all day in the middle and I'll give you an answer, because I don't care. I don't need to lie.
One of the questions that will be very interesting to see is that the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners is having a meeting for this region about the pipeline in Shelburne Falls on September 26th. So we will get more precise information, but I can tell you that none of these member conservation commissions are in favor. But we have to tread lightly. We have to be sure that we don't totally compromise our neutrality, supposedly, by coming out and posting "Stop the Pipeline" signs on.
Exactly.
We have to be careful. But I'm hoping that we will have the guidance we need from the state level people during this regional meeting as to how to deal with the pipeline through the Wetlands Protection Act. So, as I said, I can reiterate, I know that the conservation commissions that are along this line are not going to come out in favor.
You can only imagine that it's the same thing in their land. When you look at a map and you see the line drawn through like a serious wetland, and you go, well, how I wouldn't even let anybody build within 200 feet of that. And how could this guy, whoever, drive a floating pipeline or dig it? I can't even imagine digging a hole in the Great Swamp. It makes no sense. No one would do, even an engineer I think would come out and go, this is nuts.
One of the things that, because we have significant chunks of conservation land designated with a conservation restriction, it's a legal document, it's attached to the deeds, not only in this town, but in every town along the line. And those cannot be turned over without a two-thirds vote of the legislature. So, as you know, a number of our state reps from this region are building a coalition to make sure that that two-thirds vote in favor of a pipeline doesn't happen. But be that as it may, when we first were doing this, we're saying, whenever are two-thirds of the legislature going to vote in favor of anything, but especially, something that is such a part of the New England heritage as our wetlands and our forests and our lakes and our streams, our historical, cultural resources, be it colonial or post-colonial or Native American. So we never thought in 1,000 years that it would ever come up. So again, this meeting at the 26th of September is going to help us know better how to proceed without compromising the process that we're supposed to be proposing and defending and following. So.
Well, we would follow the law.
Yeah.
I mean, as I would see it, unless there was some way the feds come in and say, we don't care what you think. I don't know how they do that.
Yeah.
The Wetlands Protection Act applies to you, it applies to me, it applies to Walmart, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Now, well, the Wetlands Protection Act is pretty specific on what conservation commissions do. As I was saying, everybody is subject to the act, whether it's you, me, or Walmart. So Walmart comes in and wants to build a huge store, and there's a river running by. Well, you can't build within the inner riparian zone, first 100 feet. You can't build within the outer riparian zone, which is the second 200 feet. Maybe you can build within that 200 feet with mitigation. So Walmart says, I got $1 million. I'll build a pond over here. We'll wipe out the wetlands over here. It's usually 4 times the size. Whether it works or not, I don't know, it's wet. But there's a rule book that you follow, okay? And we all apply to everybody the same. So if this pipeline rolls through Erving, as far as a conservation commission, and it's nowhere near a wetland, the Erving Conservation Commission has no opinion because they're just citizens. Because it's not in a wetland. That's our jurisdiction.
But
100. Then you ask us, what's our personal opinion? That's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
Given we're also historical commissioners, that's a whole nother hat we put on.
that's something else.
And we go, okay, now let's talk about this. Because with the wetlands issue doesn't apply. But this does. And that one has nothing to do with the other.
Right.
Just happens that we're a small town and we both sit on the same board. It just happens to be that way.
But just to be specific, it'd be almost impossible to get through Erving without
Going through wetlands, yeah.
near a wetland.
I'd
because
say
we
it
have
is
the brooks here, the rivers there.
They come from Northfield
Yeah.
straight down.
And there's natural heritage overlay,
Yep.
endangered species overlay.
Yep,
species of
stormwater
special
runoff.
interest. Yeah, so there's the wetlands and all of our natural resources are really protected. So the trick and the interesting thing is going to be, and you asked about neutrality, if we are sitting on the board, then we have to pass the straight face test.
Yeah.
They will come to us and say, we want a permit to disturb, X number of hundreds or thousands of feet. And we will have to say, you're gonna have to do a complete environmental impact filing for us, and you will pay for our consultant.
To overlook your
To overlook your consultant and your work, and the DEP will back us up, etc. Now, if after the notice of intent is filed and we issue an order of conditions because we're semi-satisfied with their environmental impact statement, we issue an order of conditions. Okay, if this is going through here, this is what you have to do to keep all the water and the creatures and the human inhabitants safe. They can challenge that and go to DEP, and then I'm assuming with their clout, if they don't get what they want on DEP, they'll go higher.
Yeah, 881 bill.
But on the other hand, as it says, if John Q. Public and an ordinary citizen, has to go through that, and we have to be neutral. We have to take like a judge, basically. You have to take the information and make a determination. They can always appeal it, but they can't get around us.